But today, what I really want to really focus on is how to create balanced meals that do support weight management using my three-step framework, which I teach my own clients. And I've been teaching for years and years and years, and it absolutely works. And we'll talk about why. So just a couple of little housekeeping rules. We have about an hour for today's session. We may not need the whole time. We may, depending on questions. So, I'm here if you need me. If you have questions, comments, anything that you need clarification on, you missed, feel free to throw it in the comments. I am going to be checking it periodically so that I don't miss anything, that needs attention or, a question that needs to be answered. Also, you will get all of today's recipes via email, the email that you registered with. The reason why I'm able to do it in advance is because we get registrations all the way up until the time that we start. And so if I do it in advance, I'm gonna definitely miss somebody and it's gonna get all confused, and you might even get like multiple emails from me. So that's why I typically do it at the end. But so don't worry, you'll have everything that you need. We'll get a recap email. And you'll also get, as you know, this session is being recorded, so you'll be able to watch the recording if you choose to do so. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into it. So my three-step framework for balanced meals for weight management is really very simple. It's balancing the right amount of protein, carbohydrate, and healthy fats or vegetables. Vegetables kind of fall into our healthy carbs. But sometimes we also want to include some healthy fats for satiation and also for good hormonal balance. Now, the number one macronutrient for weight management that is a critical piece, I don't care where you are in your journey, what's going on with you, protein is a critical piece. And if you miss the protein, you're missing the whole boat. And the reason for that is because protein, and so our first recipe is going to have some ground turkey. Protein is what helps to keep us full longer. So protein is digested slower than, let's say, carbohydrates. So it tends to last a little bit longer, right? So let's say you had, just for argument's sake, a couple of chips or some rice cakes as a snack. You're likely to be hungry sooner than if you had a few rice cakes or some chips combined with, let's say, a slice of cheese or a slice of ham or some other protein source. So the point is that protein really does a lot for keeping us full and satisfied. The next thing that protein does for us is it gives us a little bit of a metabolic boost. So it burns more calories. So our body requires a little bit more energy to break down that protein. So there's a lot to say around a higher protein diet around increasing your metabolism or giving it a little bit of a boost. So that is sort of the framework and why we focus so much on protein. With carbohydrates, I know it gets a little bit of a bad rap, but honestly, carbs are not preventing you from losing weight. Carbohydrates can be, depending on the types of carbs. Now, yes, there are some beneficial carbs and those that maybe don't provide as many benefits, but the carbohydrates that we're going to be focusing on today are those that are rich in fiber. And fiber is another critical piece of the weight management journey because fiber allows our foods to be full of volume. So you ever heard that term, eat more, weigh less? It's not that we're just eating more food just for the sake of eating more food. We're eating the right types of foods that provide a lot of volume and fiber, but for lower calories, okay? So that is the premise of today's meals. And so we are going to be doing a breakfast, a lunch, and a dinner. If we have time, I have a little sweet snack at the end, but only if we have time. But I'm going to send you the recipe for it anyway, whether we have time for it or not. So the dinner one requires the most amount of time. So I'm going to start with that one. Not that, there's any, we can prep our meals however we like, but we're going to start with the dinner one because that's got to go in the oven. There's a little bit more cooking involved. And then we'll go to breakfast and lunch. So that'll be the game plan for today's session. Okay. So I tried to go as quickly as I could through that so that, we could get to cooking right away. So we are going to start with one of my favorite family dinners, and that is my quick turkey and veggie casserole. Now, the beauty of this recipe is that we can make it light on carbs, or you can add carbs to it if that's more your speed. Sorry, I'm just looking for my cooking spray. So sorry about that. So either way is fine. So with this recipe, we're going to be having some ground turkey, and I have a ton of veggies. So I'm going to be spraying a baking sheet with a little cooking spray. And I always like to line my baking sheets with aluminum foil just to make cleanup a little bit easier. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be roasting some broccoli florets. Now, the reason why I like to roast them is because it really develops the flavors and gives you kind of like a really nice, like crispy texture. So that's kind of how I like to do my broccoli. So if you have some large florets, you could always just kind of cut them in half and just put them on your cookie sheet. Most of these are pretty good. As always, you want to make sure that you wash your produce ahead of time, which of course I did. And these will cook maybe like 20 minutes. I usually like to put my oven for this at 400 to 425. I feel like everybody has an oven that's either runs hot. You ever hear that? Like, oh, my oven tends to run really hot. So, just kind of play around with it. So what we're going to do is just lay your broccoli florets on your pan. And then we're just going to drizzle about a tablespoon of olive oil. If you're really, really conscious of either your calorie intake, just because that's the mode that you're following for your weight loss plan, no problem, measure it out. If you're just kind of eyeballing it, that's completely fine too. So about a tablespoon of olive oil here. An alternative, you could totally use cooking spray if you prefer. That's fine. I've done that before. Let me just lower that here. And then we're just going to sprinkle just a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and I'm going to pop that into my oven, and then we're going to get to our turkey. Okay. All right. All right. So let me just set a timer here, because in the land of cooking and talking, we forget that we have things in the oven. So I always like to set a timer. All right. Now, so the next thing we're going to do is I have next to me, and I know probably in front of me, it's going to be difficult to see, but let me see if I can move it a little bit closer, unless you guys can see the over. I do have my camera on one of the screens if you want to follow along with that. Either way, I'll wait for someone to kind of put it in the comments and you tell me what works for you. All right, so now we're going to saute some onion, a bell pepper, and 2 cloves of garlic. So if you're a real garlic lover, you certainly could add more. If you've attended any of my cooking classes in the past, you know that I'm very, very generous with my garlic. So same thing with your onion. I'm just using a real small sweet onion here, and you want to kind of give this a nice fine chop. Okay. So nice fine chop here. Set that aside. And of course we have some of our broccoli kind of here dancing around, but that's okay, because everything's going to go all into the same pan. Eventually, it's all going to come together. All right, so we've got our onion here, and I'm just going to give that a nice fine chop. And I'm also just using a pound of turkey. And this will probably serve, again, depending on if you're going to serve it alongside a starch. It depends on my mood. Sometimes I will. If it's for my kids, then yes, of course, I'll serve it with pasta or rice. If I'm just making it let's say for myself or my husband, sometimes I'll just do spaghetti squash. Let me know in the comments if you've worked with spaghetti squash before. That's a really nice kind of veggie that gives you almost a little bit of a pasta sensation. I'm not saying it's the ideal replacement by any means, but it definitely does help give you that, that spaghetti type of feel. So that would be a really nice complement to this. And when we're done with the recipe and you kind of see how it all turns out, I think you'll agree. All right, so with our red bell pepper, again, I'm just really giving this a fine chop. And we're gonna add the onions and the peppers first before the garlic, because the garlic does tend to cook a little bit faster, and we definitely don't want to burn the garlic. Once you burn garlic, you do get kind of like a bitter, like a bitter taste to it. Okay, so I see a comment. Let me just get this going in here. So a little bit of oil, I would say under a tablespoon. You really don't need much here, right? Get that in there. Okay. And then I always like to sprinkle just a little bit of salt. So, salt does really serve a purpose in cooking if you can use it. If you have high blood pressure and it's something that you try to avoid, that's totally okay. But what salt does is it pulls out moisture out of vegetables. So when you're doing a saute and you sprinkle a little bit of salt, it can bring some of that moisture out during the cooking process. Yes, I love spaghetti squash. Awesome. Added ricotta sauce to the top. Perfect. Love that. Once it wasn't excited. Okay. Maybe it was the way that I cooked it. I love butternut squash. Yeah, those are wonderful. Yeah, that's a great comment because spaghetti squash literally has no flavor. It has no flavor. It's one of the most bland things you could potentially eat. But the way that you make it exciting is you do have to add something to it. So either you're adding some kind of tomato sauce, an onion and bell pepper mix, you're adding it to chili, I've actually had it with, or this particular casserole that we're making today, because it has a lot of flavor, would also be a really good addition for it. Okay, so good. I'm glad you mentioned that. Because yeah, spaghetti squash it's not exciting. You're absolutely correct. Okay, so we have our onions and peppers cooking up here. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add in our turkey. Oop, my glasses. Well, first we have to add in our onion. All right. Excuse me. Excuse me 1 second. I got like a little tickle in my throat. Okay, so we're gonna get that cooking up. And now what we're gonna do is, so I have some 93% lean ground turkey. Whatever brand you're happy with is wonderful. This one happens to be Shady Brook Farms. That's what they had at my store. And we're gonna add this in. Now I've also made this recipe with ground beef. So if your family enjoys ground beef, you could certainly use ground beef, or you could use chicken as well. That would be a great substitute. So you can kind of play around with what your family enjoys more. All right. All right. So we'll get that cooking up here. And that's going to take a few minutes, of course, because this stovetop is not exactly super high heat. So that's the only limitation here, but we can move on to other things. All right, so we're gonna let that cook up. So in here, I'm gonna be adding salt and pepper, garlic powder, crushed red pepper. Now the crushed red pepper, it's spicy. So if you're not into spice, it's totally okay. But I do add a little paprika as well. So those are all kind of the seasonings that I personally enjoy. So I'm doing 2 teaspoons of paprika. Here we are. So 2 teaspoons of paprika. A substitute, I mean, there's no real substitute for paprika, but if you don't like paprika, because it definitely is like a particular flavor, you could substitute like a chili powder if that's more your speed. All right. What are we doing with that? Garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. So garlic powder goes in there, little salt and pepper. I kind of eyeball the salt, 2 big pinches, and a little black pepper, not too much. And then with the crushed red pepper flakes, I use about 1/4 teaspoon. If you're really sensitive, you could go down to 1/8, or of course you can eliminate it altogether. I'm actually going to do 1/8 because I'm probably going to feed this to my kids tonight and I don't want to burn their little mouths. Okay, so the spice I used was Pizza herb spice. Ooh, yeah, that does sound really good. Can you use a plant-based? Oh, 100%. You could absolutely use a plant-based like meat substitute for this. I've done that lots of times with anything really. And that's such a great question. I'm glad that that you asked that question. That actually our lunch recipe is plant-based. So if that's the style of eating that you enjoy, I have substituted plant-based meats for almost any like ground turkey or ground beef type recipe. You can 110% substitute it. It's completely acceptable. So that is a really great question. Okay. So while this is cooking up, let's see. Well, let's check on our broccoli. Yeah, so this is going to be a minute because this really does have to cook a little bit. So I may move it behind us and kind of, then move from there. All right, so now while this is cooking, as it gets like cooked through to the end, I'm actually going to add like 2 handfuls of spinach. And it's just enough to wilt it. So you're not really cooking it very long. So you really want to make sure that your turkey is fully cooked before you add in your spinach. Then we're going to take our broccoli out of the oven. Everything's going to come together. We're going to put it in an oven-safe dish, pop it back in the oven with some cheese on top. And it is so simple and so good. And then, we'll talk about all the different ways that you can, that you can use it. Okay. So any questions so far on this particular recipe that we have? Is this your own kitchen? Oh, thank you. Yes, this is where I live. This is my kitchen. This is where I make my family meals. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. I figured, I have to admit, I did make this kitchen, when I moved here, and it's because I do a lot of cooking for a living. So I thought it would be a good investment. So thank you for that. I do enjoy it for sure. So thanks. I love casseroles. Yes, the name of the recipe is, what did I name this? My quick turkey and veggie casserole. Yeah, so pretty simple, I would say. So let's see how this is doing. This is looking pretty good. Looking pretty good, but it definitely does need a couple more minutes. So I just want to be sensitive of our time. I think we have a good time here. Okay, so that's looking really good. All right, so while that's finishing cooking up, we're gonna get started on our breakfast recipe. So sorry, I'm late. Oh, that's okay. No worries at all. Good. Yeah, if you missed anything, we have plenty of time, so don't worry. Feel free to ask any questions if you've missed anything. So we're doing the turkey casserole. We're just kind of letting that cook a little bit. And now we're going to move on to our breakfast, which is one of my more popular recipes. It's so simple, but it's one of my favorite things to make, not only for myself, but when I've done these like in cooking demos, like at one of our stores, people tend to like them as well. Okay, so our broccoli looks really good. Let me just give it a toss. Right. Perfect. All right, so our broccoli is looking good. So we're gonna let that hang for a little bit longer. Okay, now our next recipe is we're gonna be doing a high protein smoothie and no protein powder. I know that's something that I get asked a lot for is, hey, Jackie, can you do a protein smoothie, but no protein powder? Yes, we can do that. So there is a method to putting together a smoothie that's not considered what I call a calorie bomb. Now, a smoothie that is a calorie bomb is usually something that sounds really healthy, and it is, right? It's probably got lots of fresh fruit. There's probably, some kind of nut butter in there. There's maybe protein powder in there. Maybe there's yogurt. Maybe there's veggies. There's like a lot going on. And that's where I find people tend to go wrong with smoothies or what they would consider like a breakfast smoothie is that there's just too many different ingredients or the quantity is too much. And since I have been counseling people on weight loss for, wow, probably 15 years now, I can tell you that many of these smoothies are in the 600 to 700 calorie range. Now, not that you can never have a 600 or 700 calorie smoothie and lose weight. That's not what it is about. It's that it becomes like a repetitive habit. That's when, people tend to say like, oh man, I just don't know why I'm not losing weight. I'm having, this really healthy smoothie and I just can't figure out why, I can't lose weight. Well, it's probably because you're just not quantifying your ingredients appropriately. So my method here is we definitely need a protein, and the protein could be Greek yogurt, it could be cottage cheese, it could be cow's milk, it could be protein powder if that's what you're into. It could be tofu, like a silky tofu. So, pick the protein that you like. With fats, you want to go with either it could be like an avocado, it could be chia seeds, it could be like a nut butter. And then you want to have like a fiber rich carbohydrate. And typically it's a fruit because, a fruit is going to have a good source of fiber. And then it's also going to add some nice sweetness so that you don't have to add any sugar or sweeteners to your smoothie, which can further complicate the nutritional profile, right? So what we're going to be making today is a banana peanut butter smoothie. If you don't like bananas, totally okay. You can, switch out the fruit based on what you enjoy. So sorry that I'm late. I missed the beginning thing. Oh, no problem. Sorry. I just want to make sure I wasn't missing anything. Okay. So our turkey, now that I explained everything, our turkey is ready for our spinach. And we're going to set this aside, do our breakfast, and then we'll deal with this after that. So what we're going to do here is I just have some baby spinach, fresh, very brand new. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to add like maybe 2 handfuls in here. And again, we just kind of want it to wilt. We're not looking to really, cook it down, and just the carryover heat is going to be enough here, to cook this down. So it's not something that's going to require, a whole lot of time. That's it. You can already see that it's starting to wilt. All right, awesome. So we're going to set this aside and let's get set up with our smoothie. We just grab a towel here. All right, we're going to move this to the back. We're going to come back for you. We're going to move this oven. Right. Oh, there's our timer. It's wonderful when things work out the way you want them to. All right, so let's get we're just going to take the broccoli out of the oven. Okay. All right, so I just want to show you the broccoli so you can see how nice and crisp it is. So nice and crispy. You could eat it just like this, and I do this many nights a week for my own family, where we'll just kind of crisp up some veggies on a baking sheet. It just makes cooking a lot quicker, easier, sometimes more flavorful, which is nice. So just to kind of switch things up a little bit. Okay, so now let's get ready for our smoothie. So I have my blender here. I feel like these big blenders are always a little bit finicky. And I say finicky because if you don't put everything in the right order, they don't work. I don't know if you've experienced this before, but I have. All right, so my smoothie is very, very simple. This one is 364 calories, which is a pretty respectable breakfast. 26 grams of protein. We have 14 grams of healthy fats because our healthy fats are coming from chia seed and they're coming from peanut butter. And then we have 9 grams of fiber. I mean, this is like a solid breakfast and you're going to be able to drink it, which is really great, especially if you're someone who's really busy and, you don't have a whole lot of time. You could even make this the night before and just have it ready to go in the morning. So I'm using a Faye 0% fat yogurt. You could use a Chobani, you could use a Siggi's. If you're plant-based, you could certainly use a plant-based yogurt. Just keep in mind, you would want to go with a soy yogurt to maximize the protein, okay? Because something like a coconut yogurt or a almond milk yogurt, those simply don't have enough protein to really qualify as a good source of protein, okay? So just be mindful of reading your labels. All right, so this one's really simple. So we have our yogurt in there, and then I'm gonna be doing 3/4 of a cup of almond milk. Now I'm using unsweetened original almond milk. You could use oat milk, you could use cow's milk, so whatever your preference is, especially if sometimes, clearly we work with mostly families over at Food Town, but sometimes, I hear, oh, I don't want to keep all these different milks at home because my kids, drink cow's milk. That's fine. Use cow's milk. You can absolutely use cow's milk. In fact, you'll get an extra 8 grams of protein if you use cow's milk, which is really nice. For the chia seed, I'm just using Bob's Red Mill whole chia seeds, and I'm going to be using 2 tablespoons of this. I'm sorry, 1 tablespoon. I'm sorry. You could use 2, but this one has just 1. So 1 tablespoon of that. 1 tablespoon of our natural peanut butter. I always say go with natural peanut butter. The ingredients should list peanuts. That's what your ingredients should say, okay? It's okay if it has like a little touch of salt, but you should not be buying peanut butter that has added sugars and oils and all this other stuff. You just want like a natural peanut butter, okay? So I'm using 1 tablespoon of peanut butter here. All right, and then of course I have to get my bananas. I kept them in the freezer because I wanted them to be nice and cold, because I feel like it just has like a nicer consistency. So let me grab those. Here they are. Great. So for my bananas, what I did was I just took a fresh banana. I sliced it up this morning, and then just put it into a little bowl so that it can, become frozen. You could also do this in advance. A lot of times if I have bananas that are starting to get a little too ripe, I'll just slice it up, but you want to make sure that you freeze it like in a single layer. Otherwise they do stick to each other. So, just be mindful of that. Okay. So I think I've got all my ingredients in here. I sure do. I see one comment before I turn this puppy on. Can ground chia be used? Yeah, if you are you saying your chias are ground already, like you have ground chias? I think that's what you're saying. If that's the case, then yeah, you could even use flaxseed if that's what you have. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. All right, so let's go ahead and go for it. Power this guy on. Okay. There we go. That looks good to me. Oh, beautiful. Okay. Now, if you like a twisty straw like I do, you can certainly use one of those. And just pour it into a nice tall glass. Perfect. The perfect single serve breakfast. If you're making 2 servings, just double the recipe ingredients. Like with any recipe, if you're wanting to make more, you just double or triple the ingredients based on how many you want to make, okay? But that's it. Isn't that look awesome? It's absolutely delicious. Very good. So when you're using fresh fruit, I definitely advise not adding any additional sugars to it because it kind of defeats the whole purpose. But I think that, you'll really enjoy that. So that's it. So that's our smoothie. We have our protein, we have our fiber, we have healthy fats, really, really simple recipe and something that you could make either the night before, or you could certainly make it first thing in the morning when you're ready to head out for your day. Okay. Let me know what your favorite go-to smoothies are if you're into smoothies. Not everybody is. I do enjoy them here and there, but I'm very particular about what I like to put in them, because like I said, if you get too creative, sometimes, it can kind of get a little bit out of hand. So it just depends on what your personal goals are. So, not every, and this is a good time to kind of talk about how do you decide like how much is good for me, right? Everybody's calorie goals for weight loss are going to be different. And so it's important to know that how weight loss works or how weight management works. So if you are actively trying to either lose weight or reduce body fat, the equation is the same. You have to be in a slight caloric deficit. So that simply means you have to eat slightly less than you're burning. I think a big mistake that people make is that they assume their deficit has to be a lot bigger than it really is. Really, I only recommend a deficit of like 300 calories a day, which is really not that much when you think about food. What I like to emphasize more is, yes, portion control is 110% a necessary part of weight loss. But if you focus on the quality of your ingredients and the quality of the foods that you're consuming, really focusing on basic proteins, making sure that half your plate is vegetables, making sure that you're getting at least 25 grams of fiber a day or more, then you're likely to start seeing some results without trying so hard, okay? So just make sure that you're really being mindful of the quality of the foods that you're eating as well. So, Angela, yeah, milk, banana, berries. Yes, I love a good berry smoothie. Ooh, gingery green smoothie. That sounds delicious as well. Good. Did you, I'm sorry, did you use a cup yogurt? Yes, I used just 1 cup. So most yogurt cups that you get in the supermarket, the single serves are 5 ounces or 5.3 ounces to be exact. So any brand that you like, that's like one of these cups is going to do, is just going to be perfect. Okay. All right. So that's that. So let's clean up here and now let's get ready for lunch. This is one of my favorite lunch recipes. Okay. So I'm trying to, you know what, let's finish up dinner since we're already here. So let's, before we do that, that way we can wrap up dinner and be done with it. Because it's pretty much done. We just have to kind of assemble it. Okay, so going back to our turkey casserole. So we have our turkey here, and I'm going to show it to you in a second. We have our, is this hot? Well, yes, but I can handle it. Okay. So with our turkey casserole, we had the turkey with the spinach, the onions and the peppers, the garlic, and all the spices. So hopefully, I know it's a little bit tough, but hopefully you can kind of make that out. So it's still really steamy. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add the broccoli into our turkey casserole here and just kind of give that a nice mix. Add a little bit more. I like veggies. So this is what I mean by volume eating. So we have taken a solid source of protein, in this case, the turkey, and we're making it a bigger, more robust meal by adding in lots of vegetables. So this is what's known as volume eating. Now I'm going to take an oven-safe dish here, and I'm just going to spray it just because I'm going to be adding cheese and I don't want it to stick. And then you're just going to be adding half of your filling. Okay, here, about half. And then halfway through, I like to add just a sprinkle of cheese. If you're not into like a shredded cheese, you could use like a Parmesan. You could omit the cheese, you know, if you're lactose intolerant or you're just not into cheese, but we're really not adding much. It's literally like such a small amount. So it's just a sprinkle. It just gives it a little bit of flavor. And then the remaining portion here goes there. Okay. Now this is the perfect starter to so many meals, which is why it's like one of my favorite things to prepare, because now this turns into tacos or wraps, however, whatever you want to call it. It goes on spaghetti squash, like we talked about earlier. You can add it to pasta. You can add it over rice. You can eat it by itself. So there are so many different ways to enjoy this type of, you know, casserole type of meal. So that's it. So simple, so easy, and has so many legs. It can have so many lives. So we're going to pop it in the oven just to get the cheese kind of like nice and melted. And then we're done. We're ready to go and we can enjoy it. Okay. So what are some benefits of Greek yogurt versus low fat plain? Oh, great question. All right, let's talk about that. All right. So that only needs like 2 or 3 minutes. It's going to be ready in like a minute. So let me just, Okay, so what a great question. So there is probably like 100 different yogurts on the market. So there are so many varieties. You can have Icelandic yogurt, Greek style yogurt, regular, like more American type yogurts. So these yogurts have basically just varying nutritional profiles. So there's really no like right or wrong. It's more what you're looking for. So a Greek style yogurt is a what's considered or known as a strained yogurt. So a lot of these yogurts, what they're meant to do is they're straining some of the liquid so that the protein is concentrated. So Greek yogurt or even Icelandic yogurts have twice the amount of protein than a regular style yogurt would. So like a regular style yogurt might have like 5 grams of protein in a cup, whereas a Greek yogurt would most likely have at least 12, but I've seen 15, 18, and 20, even 25 grams of protein. So there's lots of levels or lots of variations of these more thicker type yogurts. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. In terms of the fat, it really is just going to boil down to the calories in that yogurt. So like the one that we had from Fage, this is a zero fat yogurt and it only has 100 calories. So this is like 100 calories, right? And, you know, not a big deal. If you need the fat because you just want more calories, or maybe you're giving it to your child and there's no reason for them to have a low fat yogurt, then yeah, you're going to be like more like maybe 150, 160, 170. Again, it's not bad or good. It's just what fits your particular goals and your needs. Okay. So that's where it can really get confusing for the customer or for the consumer, because you're like, oh my gosh, there's so many different yogurts. I don't know what is best for me. I would say that if you're an adult, you're managing your weight, or you just want to live like a healthy lifestyle, I would say a low-fat yogurt with at least 11 to 12 grams of protein with no added sugar is kind of where you want to live. Okay. So I hope that gives you some guidance. My child loves smoothies and wants more protein. Oh, good. I'm so glad. That's great. Okay, so let's move on to lunch. Yeah, let's have some lunch. So this is one of my favorite recipes, and it's so easy. And I think you're going to appreciate this more in the summer just because it has mango in it. But mangoes, believe it or not, are kind of in season now. So you could definitely enjoy it now. But this is my quinoa lentil power salad. And I call it a power salad because it's got protein, it's got healthy fats, it's got fiber, and it's so filling. And it's so filling, but so healthy. There's so many health promoting ingredients in this salad. So don't be like scared by the number of ingredients. Honestly, I try to use as many convenience foods as possible to show you like how easy it is to kind of put this together. Okay, so let me grab a bowl. So we're gonna serve it in this pretty little dish here. Normally I would just make it in a big bowl, but I was trying to find something that would be kind of easy to show you, you know, how to put it together. So we have a red bell pepper. Like I said, we have a mango. I have some red onion. Now this recipe does call for quinoa. You can prepare your own quinoa, which is most likely what I would normally do. But then I saw this in the store and I said, you know, a lot of times people are looking for something like really quick and easy. So you could use like the Minute, it's literally just organic quinoa. There's no other ingredient here. It's just quinoa. It's just organic quinoa. It's just that it's already prepped, you know, so it's just like an easy step. Normally I kind of recommend these types of things for people that work a lot. You know, I have like a lot of like New York City folks that are like desperate for extra time, and they're like just anything to kind of speed along the process. And I'm like, all right, well, this is kind of like an easy way to speed along the process, right? It's already cooked. So all you have to do is just add that into your bowl. So that makes it nice and easy. Okay. But quinoa itself is so easy to prepare. It only takes 15 minutes. So even if you prepared it like ahead of time, and you could either just pop it in the fridge or you could freeze it. I've had mine frozen as well, and then just defrosted it when I was ready to enjoy it, you know, so you can do that as well. All right, so you're just gonna put your quinoa into a bowl or a dish, just like that. That's kind of like our base of our salad. And let me just take the casserole out of the oven. I need another oven mitt. All right, guys, now we're done. Okay, so that's it. So now it's nice and cheesy and delicious. And I think that's what probably attracts my kids, because certainly not the vegetables. That sometimes is a hard sell, but they do like the cheese. So I think that that's what kind of motivates them to eat. So anyhow, I hope that you enjoy that. We'll show you again at the end. So quinoa is a plant-based source of protein of the grains. So it is a gluten-free grain. It is the highest containing protein grain, which makes it a really nice, valuable grain to have in our diet. So we have the quinoa there. Then we have going to be adding some lentils. So lentils are high protein, high fiber, vegetable. I always say beans and legumes are like an honorary vegetable. They are veggies. They are a very good source of fiber, but they do have some protein as well. You could use a canned version, or you can boil your own lentils, whatever makes you happy. But if you're using a canned version, it's super, super important to always rinse your beans. Any kind of bean that you're using, you never just want to eat it right from, the can. So I have a sink right next to me. You always should be rinsing them to get rid of like that weird gelatinous stuff that's on them. Also, it helps to reduce any extra like salt or sodium that's lingering on them. And it really just makes them taste a whole lot better. So please, by all means, go ahead and rinse any kind of bean that you use. So again, another convenience trick that we're using for our recipe. Now we're only using about a half a cup. So I'm going to eyeball this, about 2 heaping spoonfuls here. I'm going to add a little more because I like lentils. Okay, so we're kind of building our salad here. So we have our quinoa, we have our lentils, and now we're going to start cutting up our veggies. So our dressing is going to be little Dijon mustard with some lemon juice, but we're going to save that to the end. I also have my edamame. Now, edamame does come frozen, already shelled, so you don't have to sit there and take the, like the legume out of the pod. They can just be ready to go. Edamame, they're basically soybeans, or they are soybeans, so they are a complete protein. You don't need any other protein with this recipe because you already are, you see how we're building a foundation with different types of plant-based proteins. So that's going to give us a nice, well-rounded meal. Okay. All right. So let's start cutting up our veggies here. So I'm going to do some red onion. So I just have like a quarter of a red onion. And we want this to be really, really finely minced. If you have a food processor and you want to use a food processor, you certainly can. But anytime you're using like a raw onion in a recipe, you want to get that onion as small as you possibly can so that it doesn't like startle anybody when they bite into it, okay? Unless you really like, the big chunks of onion, that's fine. You certainly can make it your own. That's what I love about cooking is that, we can modify things according to, what makes us feel good and what our taste preferences are. Okay. All right. So red onion, you are all done. So boom, we're going to add that to our salad. Okay. So let me have a look here at my recipe. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. So we've got that. We've got that. Now our edamame. Yes, you love edamame. These are I guess vegetables or beans that I keep in my freezer all year long because they are just the perfect like solution to so many things. I add edamame to rice dishes, soups, salads. I mean, it's just a great like protein source to have on hand. But it also adds gorgeous color. So you can see how that salad is already starting to pop, right? So we've got our edamame. Now we're going to do red bell pepper. So I have a whole one here, but I have one already cut from our recipe earlier from our casserole. So I'm going to use this one. So now with our red bell pepper, we want this to be, again, small cut. How are we doing on time? Good. So we are basically making 3 breakfast, lunch, and dinner in under an hour. And I'm yapping throughout, right? So we can definitely make this happen on a regular day. All right, so we're gonna make this nice and chopped. Oops, lost one. Okay. Now red adds even more bright color. Beautiful. Okay. All right, so I think that's good. So we've got our red bell peppers in there. Perfect. Now our mango. Now, if you're new to cutting mango, this one, I think it's ripe enough. I had it with apples for a couple days, hoping it was gonna accelerate things. But you basically want to cut alongside. So you want to hold it long ways, and the pit is right in the middle. So you want to cut like on both sides here. So I'm going to attempt to cut through here. Yeah, I think it's good enough. Sometimes if they're underripe, it really is quite difficult to cut through them. So then you have your 2 halves. Then what you're going to do is just score it in little squares. So just take like a little paring knife, and just be careful. You don't want to cut through. Actually, it's easier to do it in the palm of your hand like this, like that. And you're just going to make like little squares alongside. And then when you pop it open like this, it becomes like a little bit easier to cut out. So I'll just put this here. So you see how the little squares just kind of cut right out. And that way it's already kind of diced up for you. All right. Perfect. Oops. I'm going to make sure these are cut into our little squares. All right, cool. And then I'm just going to do the same thing with the other half. Mangoes actually do have a pretty decent shelf life. So if you buy one and you have it on your kitchen counter for, a week, depending on how ripe it is, if it's underripe, you're going to be totally fine. They do last pretty good. This one, like I said, I bought that, what's today, Wednesday? I bought this last Friday and it's still not like super ripe. So they definitely take their time. Okay. All right, perfect. So there we have it. That's good. I don't know, I'm like a little bit of a perfectionist. So I like to make sure there we go. Doesn't that look stunning? Oh my gosh, this is looking so good already. I love it. Okay, now we have the last piece, which is going to be our avocado and parsley. I always like to wait anytime I'm using avocado, I like to wait until like the last possible second so that it doesn't start turning. So this one, I actually have a funny story for you. And I think any of you that have children will completely relate to this. So I had an avocado for this class, ripening perfectly, beautifully on my counter. Oh, this one actually is gorgeous. Look at it. Little round of applause for the perfect avocado for this class, because I knew I wanted it like at a certain ripeness. So I had it with an apple, whatever. It was like perfect for today. Well, guess what? One of my kids last night decided he wanted avocado. I want to eat avocado. I was like, okay. So he ate the whole avocado. So I went to the store to grab another one, but this one wasn't quite as ripe. I was a little bit nervous that we weren't going to be able to make use of it, but I put it with 2 apples in a bag overnight. And I think, oops, my watch is talking to me. And I think it did the trick. So I think we're good here. So again, with your avocado, you're going to score it the same way that we did our mango. And then you're just going to grab your spoon and just put that in there and get all your cubes in there. And anything that's kind of stuck together, just kind of mash it up. Okay, so that looks beautiful. All right, like I feel like I have to show you every little step that we do. Okay. So I can make this for my lunch except the mango. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, totally. How do I get home delivery? I know, believe you. I would love that same service, believe me. All right, guys. Now let's get our parsley, and then we're going to do our dressing, which is really simple. I'm just going to grab another knife because I'm not looking to fight with that pit right now. I don't need any more drama in my life. So just take like a handful of parsley. and just give that a really nice fine chop. You could also use cilantro, which would probably be, now that I'm thinking about it, a better fit for this salad. But I decided to go with parsley for today. But you can definitely do cilantro and it makes it really, really pretty and smells really, really good. So there we go. There's our salad. Now we got to season this bad boy. So we're going to get like a little bit of salt in there, a little bit of pepper. All right. And then in like a little bowl, what you're gonna do is just take about a teaspoon. Now I'm using Dijon mustard. You could use like a spicy mustard, but believe me, it makes all the difference. A little bit of mustard. You're gonna take your lemon, just cut that in half. Lemon squeeze. In there. Oh, wow, this one's really good. Sometimes you never know what you're gonna get out of a lemon, but this one was really good. Just a little bit of olive oil, just a touch, maybe like 1 or 2 teaspoons. Give that a nice mix. See how simple that is? There we go. And then just dress your salad. Beautiful. Give that a nice toss. And you have a power lunch, let me tell you, a real power lunch. This is such a great, I mean, it's a great side dish. It's a wonderful meal just on its own. So this recipe, just to give you the nutritionals, so for 1 3/4 cup serving, which is just under 2 cups, it's only 296 calories. It's like not even 300 calories, 14 grams of protein, 10 grams of fats, and 12 grams of fiber. So this is a really, really nice dish to have for lunch. You can make this in advance and have it for like 2 meals, or like I said, if you prefer to have like add it as a side salad, you know, you can certainly do that as well. All right, awesome. That looks amazing. So refreshing. Good. I'm so glad you guys are enjoying it. So I wish I could show you, like, there we go. I think you can get a good look at it there. Okay. So that's our salad. All right. So, all right, we have just a couple minutes. I always like to end with something kind of like a little sweet. So we are going to do my skinny hot chocolate. It's really, really simple and it's like takes no time at all. I am missing one thing though. Let me just grab my cinnamon. Okay. So if you've not done this before, it's really, really easy. So all you need is some 100% cocoa. I'm using Hershey's, a little pure vanilla extract, a little cinnamon, and again, your milk of choice. So if you're an almond milk person, great. Oat milk, great. Cow's milk, super. If you use cow's milk, you'll get a bit more protein, but if you're looking for something just really super low calorie, then an almond milk might be more your speed. So you're just going to do 1 cup of your milk of choice. So that's about 8 ounces there. The only thing is this has to be warmed up or your cocoa is not going to dissolve. All right, this looks clean. So we're going to use 1 tablespoon of hot cocoa, 100% cocoa. All right, now I'm just going to pop this in my microwave for just a minute. So while that's warming up, what questions do we have? Let's chit chat. Just ignore the fact that this is like a complete disaster. So any questions? All right. So I'm very excited to try each of these. Good. I can't wait to get you the recipes. I should be able to get you those today. Can you send, so make today? Yes. I'm gonna do my best to get these over to you today. I don't see any reason why I shouldn't be able to. So just to recap, we had for breakfast, the banana protein smoothie. For lunch, we had our quinoa power salad with lentils and edamame, onions and peppers, mango. If you're not into mango, you know, you can certainly omit it. That's totally okay. And then, of course, we had our turkey casserole, which should be cool by now. Yep, we had our turkey casserole that has many lives. We can turn it into different meals depending on whether or not we want to add a starch or a green, or if we want to do something like spaghetti squash to keep it a little bit more low calorie. So that's it. Really simple stuff. We did everything in pretty much under an hour. So we did kind of hustle through everything. And then let's finish off with our skinny hot cocoa. Let me just grab a spoon to give this a stir. All right. Now I had it in the microwave for about 1 minute and 20 seconds. But you absolutely have to warm it up because A, it's hot cocoa, and B, cocoa powder will not dissolve unless it's really warmed up in some way. So just give this a stir. Okay. Now you can add about a teaspoon of, I have just pure vanilla extract. I always use the cap to measure. All right, pour that in there. I like adding just like a pinch, literally a pinch of cinnamon, just like that. And then it's up to you if you want to sweeten it. Here I just have a packet of stevia. It's really not much at all, just a little stevia there to give it a little sweetness. And you're good to go. And you have a nice little skinny hot cocoa to curl up by the fire in these cold winter nights that we're experiencing in the Northeast. So if you're not in the Northeast and you're having warm weather, don't tell us about it. Keep it to yourself. Okay, everybody. So do you more recipes we get? Oh, you're so welcome, Nancy. Thank you. I'm sorry, Stephanie, can you just rewrite your question? I'm not sure I'm understanding what you need. So just let me know. Yes, and I'm just looking through the comments. Yeah, so that's it, everybody. So those were all our recipes for today. Remember that weight management really does boil down to calorie control as a first step. Second step is identifying those really quality nutrient dense foods that can help keep you fuller for a longer period of time. If you ate, let's say you had to lose weight on whatever, 1,500 calories. If you ate 1,500 calories worth of pasta, you're probably going to be really hungry, right? At the end of the day, you're going to be like, man, I feel like I didn't eat anything. All I ate was pasta today. But if those 1,500 calories included protein, healthy fats, lots of veggies, you're going to be feeling a lot more full and satisfied. You'll be able to stay more consistent, and naturally you'll be healthier because your diet will include so many different nutrients. Okay. So you're so welcome. Thank you. Thanks for Ireland. Oh, that's so cool. I love it. Thank you for joining us. So thanks so much for being here, everybody. Please look out for my email. And if you have any questions, feel free to reply to my email. And hopefully I will see you for the next class. We will be announcing that in a couple of weeks, probably towards the end of February or so. If you have any suggestions for topics, feel free to send those over. I'm always looking for ideas. Okay, thanks and have a great day.
Jacqueline, thank you so much. That was amazing. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
That was super sweet.
Oh,
you know, being a single dad and having the opportunity to cook for my son, who is in that building stage of I'm 16 years of age and I need to learn and cook healthier. You just made it so easy and simple for me. So I'm very excited. The protein stuff is so important to me. I just want to ask one last question for you.
Sure, yeah.
If I want to build a superfood component into the foods choices that you made, obviously the seeds that you used are a superfood. Obviously the cinnamon that you're talking about is a superfood, as I've learned a little, not a lot, enough to be dangerous. Okay. Yeah. I wanted to inquire and ask, are there any additional components that I could add to some of the meal choices that you've made? And please invite me to the next. I welcome the opportunity and would appreciate it to grow through this process of learning how to cook and be better at it, since I'm more about going out for lunch and having a beer for lunch and enjoying whatever, but I really want to be able to add that value to the meals that I create with him. Are there any other superfoods that I can include, because it's brain as well as protein, and I really feel that that's an important component. So
yeah,
before we conclude, if you could add,
100%.
Like the edamame is great.
Yes,
like all these things are great.
Yep.
So
And I have
are there anything else?
So I totally, can relate. They're young. They're not quite 16 yet, but eight going on 16, right? So I would say for your proteins, you want to try and start adding some fish into his diet if he's not already eating fish. So salmon, my kids eat salmon. That's kind of what I started them on. And they enjoy it. But it may take a couple of tries to get him to be like, okay, I finally like this. But what's nice
Okay.
about salmon is that it's a very rich flavor. So, as long as you're dressing it appropriately, salt, pepper, garlic, even I put like chili powder on mine before, anything to get my kids to eat it. But those
Try.
omega-3s, yeah, those omega-3s are critical for brain
Yep.
development, behavior, central nervous, skin. I mean, there's so many benefits to omega-3s. So, I would start with either salmon or tuna. If I don't know if he's into, would try sushi. Everybody's kind of different,
It's
but
that texture issue.
yeah, it
That's
just
the
kind of
age
depends,
appropriate
right?
thing. They'll grow into it, but they're not there
Yeah,
yet.
grow into it.
You
Or
know
you
what I
can
mean?
start with something simple like a codfish or a flounder that's not
Okay.
doesn't have a rich flavor. You can bread it and either lightly fry it or pop it in the oven under the broiler. So that's an easy way to get, to start introducing some fish. Or you can start with like shellfish, like shrimp. Sometimes people will do better with shrimp because it's an easy entryway into fish. But I would definitely try to get fish on the plate. The thing with other like really like health promoting foods would be something like nuts. So almonds, but if he doesn't like almonds, maybe go like almond butter, right? So like maybe
All right.
try the next best thing. So almond butter would be totally appropriate. Still has all the nutrients, but it mimics like a peanut butter. So, you're kind of like easing into it.
Mhm.
Um, you could even do like there's a brand called it's called skinny, what is it called? The skinny nut or skinny almonds. Oh,
Skinny almonds.
skinny dipped almonds, skinny dipped
I know
almonds.
it. I know it.
Oh,
I know it.
they're
Yep.
like they've got just like a dusting of cocoa powder on them. My little guy loves them, and that is a really easy way to get some almonds into the diet as well because they have like a little bit of flavor on them. Then outside of that, then maybe think about like blueberries. So blueberries are known to be like a power
An
food.
antioxidant
Yeah, for
experience as well, of
antioxidants.
course.
Also raspberries. I that's like the fruits that are like super expensive, but
Oh,
they have a lot of like beneficial
we're
properties.
we're not putting a budget on this.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah,
Okay. No problem.
raspberries are very high
Health is
in
important.
fiber.
Hmm.
One of my kids is like a raspberry fanatic. So, yeah, so those are really good, good fruits to introduce into the diet as well. So, that's kind of where I would want your head to start gearing towards is really start incorporating more like omega-3 type of foods. So you're thinking about your fish, then we're going to go to our nuts and seeds. Those are the foods that tend to be more difficult for that age group because
Agreed.
where are you like what kid is going out and being like, yeah, can I order the salmon? Like nobody, right? Or
It's texture. It's
yeah,
like taste consistency. It's
right.
like, so I appreciate that
Yeah.
clarification very much.
Sure.
Thank you so very
Also,
much.
you know what I'll include in my recap email, everybody? I forgot to mention it, but I have like a free high protein booklet that I created recently. So, the cover is like crush your protein goals. Don't get like, be like, oh my gosh, like, is this like a bodybuilding? But really it's just, there's like three high protein meal plans in there. There's like a couple of high protein food lists that it might help you like just get a little bit of ideas on meal planning and start like moving in that direction of just incorporating more high quality proteins in the diet.
So as a parent, and I have to get going, and I know you do too, and so I apologize,
It's
guys.
okay, you're
As a
good.
parent, one of the biggest concerns that I have is, my son who's in high school, and I'm sure everybody's age groups are different here, like yours, in middle school or elementary school. I want to teach my son the right approach as to what to eat and what not to eat. So rather than him buying a meal at school or getting it, created by somebody other than that, I want him to be involved in it so
Right.
that he understands how to build his own, what makes sense for him and how his body reacts to
Hmm.
it.
Yeah.
So to me, that's an important component of it. And I want him to be very much intricately involved so it becomes cohesive and it sticks together. So,
Right.
this is one of those things. And with some of these simple recipes that you just put together for me, gave me some great ideas, and I'm so appreciative. So,
Good.
on behalf of, I'm speaking for myself, thank you so very much.
You're so
I
welcome.
appreciate all of your insight.
Oh,
Whatever
thanks.
you choose to send over to me, and my email's in there, whatever
Yeah,
you may do, I welcome it. So, thank
great.
you very much,
You're
Jacqueline. I appreciate
welcome.
you.
Randy, thank you
Thank
for
you so
that
much.
very thoughtful and insightful question. It really was great conversation. So thank you. And
Thank
thanks for
you.
being here, everybody. All right,
Thank you for
guys.
having us.
Yeah, enjoy the
All
rest of
right.
your afternoon and we'll see you
Thank
next
you.
time. All right, take
Thank
care.
you so much.
You're
Bye
welcome.
for now. Take
Bye.
care. Bye bye.